Winella woke up bright and early the next morning. She grabbed her wand and ran downstairs. She wanted to hurry and eat breakfast before the wand began to glow and take her to wand school. She ate her breakfast. She had granola with blueberries and with yogurt mixed all together. She had a big glass of orange juice and a big glass of milk, and she had a small apricot. She had time, although she ate them very quickly, she had time to eat them all. And after she was done eating, she went upstairs and she brushed her teeth, carrying her wand with her. She kept one eye on the wand the whole time that she was doing all of these things, so that she wouldn't miss it if it started to glow. But she managed to brush her teeth completely, and the wand had still not begun to glow. She looked at her watch. 8:15. She said, yesterday the wand glowed at 8 o'clock exactly. She came downstairs. She said, Mom, I think there's something wrong. Her mom said, why do you say that? She said, my wand hasn't taken me back to wand school. Her mom said, well, are you sure that today was the day? Winella said, yes. The teacher, the fairy, told us that yesterday when we took ourselves home, that she would see us today if we figured out how to get ourselves. Oh, her mother said, what is it? Winella said, today we have to get ourselves to wand school. The wands won't take us automatically. I had forgotten that she had said that. She said, let's see. I just have to think about wand school, and that being where I want to go. And as she said it, the wand began to glow faintly, and she began to close her eyes, and she started to think really, really carefully about wand school, picturing the castle and the decorations on it, and she could tell that the wand was getting brighter because she could see it even through her closed eyelids until it got so bright. And then the light went out, and she opened her eyes, and she was standing on a great grassy green lawn at the base of a small hill. At the top of the hill was the great white castle with the phoenix and the dragon and the cross all emblazoned on its side. Winella smiled and began to walk up the hill to the castle. As she was just about to knock on the door, she heard a small pop and a slight ooh behind her. She turned around, and there was Claire, looking around worriedly. Claire said, oh, thank goodness, you're here too. I thought I would be the only person who got here late. Winella said, no, it took me a minute to figure out how to get back. Claire said, yeah, me too. And they grinned at each other. Then Winella knocked on the door of the castle. Today the portcullis was up and the drawbridge was down, so they did not have to do anything special with their wands. Nothing happened for a moment, and then Winella heard footsteps in the distance, and the great door swung open, revealing the fairy. Winella said, hello. The fairies said, I'm so glad to see that you both made it back. She said, some of our students don't arrive back after the first day, and they never complete the wand school. Winella said, well, I'm very glad I made it back. It took me a few minutes to remember that I needed to come back on my own and use my wand to do it. But here I am. The fairy smiled and said, well, are you girls excited about your second day? Winella said, yes, wishes. That sounds like so much fun. The fairy said, now, the thing about granting wishes is that it requires a great deal of concentration. So you will need to first learn to concentrate on two things at once. She said, here's what I'm going to have you do. You're going to do a little cleaning around the wand school. And while you do it, you are going to have to also count backwards from 20 by threes, and you have to sing it to the tune of Row, Row, Row Your Boat. Winella and Claire looked at each other, their eyes big. Winella said, that sounds hard. The fairy smiled and said, you're right, it is hard, but once you can do that, you can easily concentrate on the things you need to concentrate on to grant wishes. So, She pointed them towards 2 buckets and mops. The girls pointed their wands at the buckets and at the mops. The mops began to rise into the air, dip themselves in the water, and swab the floor. While they were doing that, the girls tried at the same time to sing 20, 17, 14, 11, 8, 5, 2, -1, 20, 17, 14, 11, 8, 5, 2, -1. It took them quite some time before they could really do it and sing it to the tune like they were supposed to. But before long, they found that it was getting easier to concentrate on keeping both things going at once. For a while, when they got the song right, their mops would fall out of the air and hit the ground with a loud clatter. Or they would accidentally tip a bucket over, or they would miss some of the words. But after they had been doing it for a couple hours, they were really beginning to get good at it. They were also really beginning to get tired of it. Well, Winella and Claire were standing there, and they were working through the last hallway when Claire said, this is so boring. I thought wand school would be exciting. I wish something exciting would happen." Winella was thinking about singing and thinking about the mop and thinking about counting the numbers, and then she also started thinking about what Claire had just said, and thinking that she also wished that something exciting would happen. And when she thought all of those thoughts at once, suddenly her wand glowed very bright. Sparkles shot up into the air, covered Claire, and shot up into the sky. And a moment later, there was a great roar in the air above the castle. Claire and Winella looked at each other. Claire said, "I think we have a problem." The fairy came dashing out. She said, "There's a dragon attacking the castle. What did you girls do?" Winella said, "I'm not sure. I think I might have granted Claire's wish that something exciting would happen." The fairy said, "Oh!" And at that moment, a great claw burst through the side of the castle and grabbed Claire. Winella said, "Claire!" She tried to point her wand at the dragon's claw and think, "Open, open!" But the claw just pulled her back through the castle wall. Winella ran out through it and could see the dragon flying off into the sky. The fairy followed her out. She said, "This is terrible. You must go rescue your friend." Winella said, "Well, but I don't..."
Claire gonna be okay?
Yes, I'm sure Claire will be okay. Winella's very good at rescuing people. Winella said, "But it's a dragon. How do I chase him?" The fairy said, "Well, you must grant your own wish, perhaps." Winella thought, "What am I going to do? What am I going to do? I have to chase that dragon." She said, Let me think. What was day 3 of wand school? It was learning to fly. She said, "So it must be possible to fly with this wand." Winella thought, I've got to chase that dragon. She started trying to think about the numbers and singing backwards and thinking about flying and thinking about wishing that she could fly, and she felt her feet rise up off the ground, and she smiled. She could feel it. She could feel the wand's power moving through her body and making her as light as a feather. The fairy smiled at her. She said, "Good travels, Winella." Winella smiled back at her and said, "I won't be gone long." She pointed her wand ahead of her and thought, "Fast!" In a moment she was flying through the air after the dragon. It was only a red speck in the sky at this point, but she could still see it, and as she flew through the sky, she could see that it was gradually getting larger. Then she thought, "Faster!" And she flew through the air even faster. Now she was definitely gaining on the dragon. She could see its wings and its tail. She could even begin to see its scales, and she could see Claire grasped in one of its claws. As she approached, she yelled, "Hey, dragon! Let go of my friend!" The dragon just looked back at her and breathed a little stream of fire that she had to dodge. Winella said, "Claire! Claire!" And Claire was yelling, "Winella!" Winella could see that Claire had dropped her wand and no longer had it in her hand. She said, "Claire, quick, wish for something else." Claire looked too scared to say anything, but as Winella flew closer, she said, "It's okay, Claire. It's okay. I'm here, and I think I can grant another wish. You just have to wish it." And Claire said, I wish, I'm scared of the dragon." Winella said, "Just say your wish." Claire said, "Oh, I wish nothing exciting was happening. I wish we were back in boring old wand school learning our wands, and I wish I had my wand back." And Winella felt the wish. She felt it coming towards her from Claire, and she felt how she could fly and count and sing and grant, and poof! Her wand glowed, and they found themselves back in wand school, standing next to the open hole in the wall. They both had their wands in their hands, and the buckets and mops were in front of them. The fairy said, "Well, I've never had a student promising enough to master flight on the second day, Winella. I think that will be quite enough for today, girls. I will see you tomorrow." And with that, she pointed her wand at both of them, and before they could blink, they found themselves back in their own homes.